Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. It is another edition of the Yankees series recap episode today. Today is Monday, April 8th. It is solar eclipse day, and the New York Yankees got the job done yesterday with a victory. They will open up a 3-game set tonight at Yankee Stadium, the second half of this 6-game homestand against the 1-9 Miami Marlins, who finally got their first win yesterday with a 10-3 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. So they will head into this one 1-9. The Yankees will head into this one 8-2. It was another series win. And of course, we're recapping this one again. If you're a Yankee fan, you've got to be fired up. We'll break it down all 3 games, game 1, 2, and 3. After falling in game 1, Yankees bounce back, win the next 2. So they win this series, take 2 of 3 against a division rival in the Toronto Blue Jays, who came into the series struggling a little bit, looking to gain some momentum before they hit their home opener this week. And they walk out of this series with the series win. They get to 8-2. Blue Jays fall to 4-6. And there was a lot to like. Through 10 games this season, there is still 152 more to go. But the home opening weekend for the New York Yankees, I think, went as good as you could have expected after what happened on Friday night, where they got shut out. They struggled. They didn't get many runners on. They had some chances, but they couldn't convert. It was a rough outing for the offense. It was similar to that Tuesday game against the Arizona Diamondbacks where they couldn't hit. They got beat up, right? 2 runs in the 9th. Nick Birdie lost control. Yankees lose that game. To be able to bounce back, pick up a win on Monday or Saturday, and then go out there and pick up a convincing win on Sunday where offensively you saw your big bats step up in a big way. There was a lot of good signs. And those are just some of the overall takeaways here. The ability to bounce back. The crowd was phenomenal. I mean, this has been so much fun to be a New York Yankee fan. This stretch of 10 games here to start the season has been so much fun, right? We talk about winning each series, finding a way to get the job done, right? Series sweeps are great, but if you can just win each series, take care of business, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right? Sweep a team like the Astros where you kind of go into that series with the expectation of maybe a split, maybe at best you take 3 or 4. Sometimes you sneak in and get those series sweeps against a really good team like the Astros, even though they're off to a very tough start here to open up the season. Then you take 2 or 3 against the Diamondbacks. You take 2 or 3 against Toronto. The New York Yankees open up this year with a tough schedule. This was a difficult stretch. Even with the Blue Jays struggling to start the year, that is still a team that is a very solid lineup. That is still a team that, when healthy, has got a solid pitching staff. A pitching staff last season that was one of the more consistent ones in baseball in terms of guys making every start, going every 5 days, producing at a high level. And for the Yankees to get the job done against the Astros, a team that's been a thorn in their side for a while, to be able to beat the Diamondbacks, who went to the World Series just a year ago, last season in October, not even a year ago, last year, 2023. And then for a team in Toronto who came in not desperate, but first divisional matchup, right? They've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. They're looking to gain some momentum before going home. There's not really a better way that you can do that than beating the Yankees, and you take 2 or 3 there. So credit to this team, credit to the coaching, credit to Boone. These guys are playing well. They're playing well, and it's a different squad. It's a different energy. I've talked about it every single, I think I've said it every single episode so far. The opening series, the Diamondbacks, and in this one. Last year was boring. Like, as a Yankee fan watching those games last year, it was a boring brand of baseball. You were sitting there watching those games, feeling no energy, frustrated. It was just awful. And this year, you're legitimately excited. Like last year, down the stretch of the season, you dreaded at times watching that team because it was so painful. It was so awful. It was so frustrating. It was such poor baseball. There was no offense. There was no good at-bats. This year, it's so much fun. Like, through 10 games, this has been one of the better 10-game stretches that you've seen this team play, really during the Aaron Boone era, but really in a while here, that you've seen this team play in a long time. To start 8-2, to beat 3 good teams that they've been able to beat, and now you get Miami coming to town. There's a lot to like. for the New York Yankees. So let's break this series down here game by game, and then we'll get you on your way, and we'll get you set up for the Marlins series, which starts tonight. So game one, again, was ugly. And by the way, the crowd this weekend was awesome. The crowd was awesome. You had 47,812 in game one. Yesterday, you had another packed house. You had packed houses all throughout the weekend, 42,000 in game two. And then yesterday, you had 40,000. So well over 40,000 in all three of these games. It really felt like a playoff atmosphere. Watching these games, of course, not being there, but watching them, it felt like a playoff atmosphere. There was a lot of energy. Fans are excited. Fans are pumped up. You know, you get Soto, and that's where we'll start here with the opener. You know, it was great. You know, you see Soto walk up his Empire State of Mind, which is a really cool gesture to New York. Of course, a song that is very well recognized around the area. That's his walk-up song. The Bleacher Creatures, Marcus Stroman pregame was awesome. You know, him interacting with the fans, signing autographs. You've never really seen a pitcher prior to them going out there and pitching, especially in their home opener, their first game. Obviously, a lot of nerves, a good amount of pressure. You never really have seen a guy go out there and sign autographs and be as loose as Marcus Stroman was. He was pumping up the crowd in the outfield. So Marcus Stroman was awesome. And we'll start with him before we get into the negative of this, and we're not going to be too negative. We're not going to crush this game too much because the Yankees did find a way to bounce back in this game. But Stroman was awesome. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, no run, no earns, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 98 pitches, 57 strikes. Worked in and out of a couple jams. You know, you go to the first inning, right? Springer had the leadoff double. Guerrero grounded out to Stroman, and then Springer ended up advancing to first. Or I apologize. Rizzo he grounded out to Rizzo. Stroman covered. And then Springer ended up advancing to third. Bichette struck out. Then he got Justin Turner to line out to Volpe. So there it is right there. First inning, had a runner on second. First pitch of the game, leadoff double. And he had a runner on third with 1 out. And he found a way to get a K against Bichette and get Turner to line out. Your 3-4 hitters was able to work out of it there. Another inning, too, where he found himself in a little bit of trouble was the fourth, where you had an E5 and he had a double by Biggio. That advanced Turner to third, so you had second and third, 2 outs, and was able to get Alejandro Kirk to pop out. So another inning, 2 runners on base, 2 outs, 2 guys in scoring position, was able to work out of it. So a couple times was working in and out of the trouble, which you really like to see, forcing a lot of grounders, a lot of weak contact. He was excellent. And you kind of wondered what you would see in Marcus Stroman, right? First start in Yankee Stadium, first start in the pinstripes, a lot of pressure, a game that he's been talking about, a game the Yankees have been talking about for a very long time. He's talked about, you know, the minute he signed with the Yankees, about pitching in the home opener and getting an opportunity to pitch in Yankee Stadium, the hometown kid, all of that great stuff, all of that pressure. He needed to go out there. He needed to show up, and he did, and he was great. And it's unfortunate that the New York Yankees didn't reward him and get him a W, but he was awesome. He was great. He's just another guy to this locker room that this team needed, right? We talk about how this team needed a kick in the butt. This team needed a kick, you know, in the rear end a little bit to get going. They needed energy. They needed that different vibe in the locker room. And Soto's obviously given that big time. You've seen Verdugo as well. Even Stroman, that swag in this locker room that has been lacking with this team for a very long time. Stroman's delivered that in the locker room. And of course, he's been great on the field as well. So he's thrown 12 innings so far, and he has yet to allow an earned run. So really, I don't think you could have drawn up a better 2 starts as a Yankee for Marcus Stroman, and he'll get another opportunity to go out there on Wednesday at Yankee Stadium again in the pinstripes against the Miami Marlins, which will be the final game of the 3-game set. So Stroman was excellent. That was the one positive. Like we said, didn't provide him with much run support, and the bullpen struggled as well. Caleb Ferguson came in, allowed a home run. It was a pinch hit by Clement. That made it 1-0. So he allowed 2 hits, 1 run on 17 pitches in just 2/3 of an inning. And then Santana as well struggled a little bit there in the runs were credited to him. Birdie was really the guy that, you know, Dennis Santana got the runners on. It was 2 singles. It was a single by Servant. It was a single by Varsho. They took him out. They brought in Nick Birdie, and then Birdie walked the next two guys. He also had 3 wild pitches, which scored 2 runs. So it's crazy. Birdie was all over the place. He walked 2 guys, had a ton of wild pitches, threw 13 strikes on 24 pitches, so 9 balls. It was ugly for Birdie. Birdie was all over the place. He was in his head. He was spiking the ball. You can make the argument that there was a couple maybe on Trevino. The one popped out of Trevino's glove. I've been a little disappointed with what I've seen from Trevino this year, but a lot of it was Birdie. He couldn't settle in. You got the bases loaded. You've got to throw strikes. You got to get contact. You got to find a way to get out of the inning. He couldn't. So the 9th inning really kind of unraveled. And it's unfortunate because the Yankees had a rally in the 9th. You know, they got 2 runners on. Verdugo got up, just got under it, flew it out to deep left center field on the warning track, and Springer ended up making the play. So, or deep right center field, rather. Springer ended up making the play. So a little unfortunate. Who knows if the Yankees are in a 1-0 game there, it's a completely different situation. Verdugo maybe takes more of a contact approach, doesn't try and win the game with one swing of the bat. Less pressure in that situation as well. You have first and second only down 1 as opposed to first and second down 3. A little bit of a different situation there, situationally, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Yankees didn't have much going offensively. They just didn't. The top, your big guys of Soto, Judge, Stan, neither of them had a hit. When that happens, you're not going to find ways to win. The bottom of the order was really what the damage was done. I mean, the Yankees had 6 hits. 5 of them rather came in the bottom. I shouldn't say bottom, but came 5 through the 8 hole. Rizzo, Volpe, Verdugo, Birdie had 5 of the Yankees' 6 hits. The only other guy within the top 4 hitters were Torres. So the top of the lineup didn't do a whole lot. Bottom of the order did a little bit more. You also got to give credit. Yusei Kikuchi was solid in this one, striking out 7 over 5 1/3. Yankees struck out 11 times in this one. It wasn't good. It was ugly from an offensive perspective. It's going to happen, though. It's going to happen. You had a good start from Stroman. Your bullpen unraveled late. Nick Birdie was awful. You're going to have games like this. It is what it is. I thought out of all the games, I've praised Boone a lot on here so far. I've been publicly very happy with Aaron Boone. I don't know if I should have said publicly because it's not like I've had a big press conference to announce that I've been happy with Boone. No, I have been happy with Boone. I thought he's done a lot of really good things. I thought today, though, or in this game on Friday, I thought you could make the case was probably the worst game he's managed this season. Couple situations he could have brought in Cabrera and Wells in a couple situations where they had runners on. You go to the 7th, they worked a walk. They had a runner on. Verdugo walked. New pitcher came in. You could have probably went, instead of having Birdie there, you probably could have went with Oswaldo. And there was also some situations there too as well where, you go to the 5th, you had a runner on. Trevino ended up grounding into a double play. Is that a situation where you have Wells come up? There's a couple situations where you could have made the case that Wells or Oswaldo could have came up. They didn't do it. I would have liked to see one of them up, get a lefty in there, potentially try and get some runs across because obviously what they were doing wasn't working. So I thought from that perspective, it wasn't great. And you probably could have made the case too. Birdie probably could have been pulled. It doesn't really matter because Birdie he walked the 2 guys. They ended up getting a strikeout. He got a guy to line out. But in terms of the lineup, he probably could have had a couple of those pinch hit things. So either way, not going to harp on this game too much. Looking down my scorebook, that's pretty much all I've got for this one. Didn't score a run. You're not going to win when you don't score. Stroman was great. That was the main takeaway. Yankees lose game 1. Now you go to game 2, and that's where things really pick up for the Yankees. This was awesome. Yankees put up 9 runs in this game, and we've talked about it a lot. They struck early and often, scoring 6 runs in the first 2 innings. Something that the Yankees have done a very good job of this year is getting off to quick starts. Even yesterday, they were able to get off to a quick start where they were able to score 5 in the 3rd after falling down 1-0. So we've seen this Yankee team have the ability to score 3, 4, 5, 6 runs within the first 3 innings, which is what you want to see. Not too reliant on trying to come back late in games like Friday where you got shut out, you struggled, you had some momentum in the 9th, but 2 outs in the 9th, you worked 2 2-out singles in the 9th. It's not going to be good enough. in a 3-run game. So I was happy. I think you had to be really, really glad if you were a Yankee fan to see this team bounce back the way they did in game 2, especially early in this game, where they're able to go out there, score 6 runs in the first 2 innings. And it was from the big bats. Judge homered to left, which was a bomb. Soto scored. Soto worked the walk, and then Judge homered. We're going to see a lot of that this season. There's a good chance we see that combo of Soto walking, Judge hitting a homer, probably at least 15, 20 more times this season. There's a good chance we see that. It's just what makes this lineup so lethal, what makes this lineup so potent, is that ability to Soto to work counts, see a lot of pitches, wear the pitcher down, get on base, and you've got one of your biggest bats in the lineup, and Aaron Judge, one of the best players in baseball, one of the best power hitters in baseball, coming up after that with a runner on base, and you saw that there. Stanton also homered. It was a solo shot, so there was some criticism for Stanton after game 1. He struggled, didn't play well, certainly had an impact on them getting shut out. Then to go to game 2, Boone fielded some questions on Stanton about, if he is going to, get out of it, how he feels about his struggles and all that stuff. And Stanton answered in a big way. That is one thing I will always give credit to Giancarlo Stanton. Right? We can crush him. He's a streaky player. That's just the way he is. But anytime Stanton's doubted, anytime the media gets after him, anytime Boone starts to get questions about his struggles and stuff, he always seems to respond. He always has. He's just the guy that it seems like kind of not likes the criticism, but when he's getting criticized, he understands it, he takes it, he moves on, and he uses that as motivation. And that's one thing we've always complimented Stanton. He's not afraid to go up there and stand in front of the microphone and call himself out, hold himself accountable. He's been very good with the media. He's had a lot of really tough games. He's had a lot of tough stretches throughout his Yankee career where he was getting booed, getting crushed by the fan base. And he would always stand up there and take shots. So I give Stan credit for that. I've also given a lot of credit from a perspective of anytime he's been doubted, anytime you start to have questions about, oh, is this guy good enough anymore? Is he washed? All of this. He always seems to bounce back and do something really good the next game or the next couple games. And you saw that here in the bottom of the first. So who got the job done in the bottom of the first? Well, it was Soto working a walk, and then it was Judge with a homer, and it's Stanton with a homer. Those 3 things, if they happen often, this team's going to win well over 100 games this year. They are not going to have any problem hitting 100 wins. You go to the bottom of the second. Torres hit a sac fly. I mean, this was a excellent at bat. Almost a grand slam. If this was a 80, 90 degree summer night in the middle of July, this is probably a grand slam. But Torres worked the count full. Then he fouled off 3 pitches and then had a sac fly all the way to the warning track. Off the bat, it seemed like it might have been out, but as a fan watching this game on TV, not being in the building and seeing it live, of course, you always kind of knew in the back of your head, all right, it's cold, it's April, it's a night game. It's going to take a lot to get this ball out. And unfortunately, he kind of just caught the end of it, just short. Again, if that is a July night, we're probably talking about a Gleyber Torres grand slam, and we're probably talking about the New York Yankees having, 11 runs in this game because they came away with 3 that inning, or 10 runs, 1 more run. Either way, they ended up coming away with 3 runs. Well, it would have been the grand slam plus whatever else. Either way, he hit the grand slam. Wells then scored on a pass ball. So the Yankees have had a couple games so far this season. I think it's been like 2 or 3 runs the Yankees have scored this year on pass balls. However you get them, you take them. But the Yankees have had a couple of those. Wells was the one who scored it, and Soto had a single to right field, which scored Oswaldo. So in that inning, you had 3 runs. Blue Jays ended up bouncing back after that, making it 6-2. Then it was a Rizzo homer. Then Soto singled, made it 9-2. Now we'll get to where things almost unraveled for the Yankees, but just talked about Soto, just talked about Rizzo. We've talked about Judge. We've been a little critical at times this season, a little bit, right? There's been a couple games where the middle of that order has not done well, right? Judge through the first couple games was off to a slow start. Stanton and Rizzo as well, right? Even Judge right now is still hitting 194. He hasn't completely broke out yet. Rizzo 216, Stanton 219. So those guys, their batting averages are still low. You would still like to see them break out a little bit more. But in this game, they broke out in a big way. Combined between the three, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, your 3, 4, 5 hitters, they went 6 for 12, hitting 500, 3 home runs, 2 walks, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored. 9-8 victory. If you get that production, I mean, I don't want to say every night because it's just not going to happen. You're not going to get 3 home runs out of the team every night. You're not going to get 3 home runs out of the same guys every night. But if you get that more nights than not, another reason why this Yankee team can be so lethal. And another reason, too, why they're 8-2, and we haven't even seen this full potential yet. Like these last 2 games, specifically Saturday and Sunday. I know we saw some things in Arizona and, of course, Houston. But specifically the last 2 games where the middle of the order was hitting and you were getting production up and down the order, it just shows you how good this team can be. And in those first 2 series where they went 6-1, how they're still finding ways to win even without the top of the order hitting, or even without sometimes the middle of the order hitting. And that's been something that this team has always been is top heavy, where if the middle of the order doesn't hit, they don't win. That hasn't been the case this year, but when the middle of the order does hit, they dominate. And they did. Now, this game got ugly here, or almost ugly, almost a colossal disaster. So Vladdy Jr. quieted the crowd. The Yankees were up in this game 9-2. Vladdy hit a solo home run, made it 9-3, was shushing the crowd. I guess he was trying to keep his 182 batting average quiet. That's the way I read it. Not a big Vladdy fan, as you can tell. I don't think any Yankee fan likes Vladdy. They say it's his regular home run celebration. I don't care. It's pathetic. If that's a regular home run celebration, you're down 6 against a division rival. You should not be shushing the crowd. If this was against the Oakland A's, it's like, who cares? But the Yankees down 9-3, shushing the crowd's probably not the best idea. Either way, he did that, and it almost sparked the Blue Jays comeback. The Yankees bullpen in this one was not good. So, look, you could look at it from a couple of different angles. I also think Clark Schmidt probably could have gave them more innings. He threw 91 pitches in 4 1/3, couldn't get them to 5. When it's a 9-2 ball game, when you've got big run cushion like Clark Schmidt had, where when he left the mound, it was 6-2. When you have all that, run support and you're up by 4, just throw strikes. Don't overcomplicate it. I thought Schmidt, he had 3 walks. He worked into some deep counts, was in pitch count trouble. He just wasn't very sharp. So you could look at it from the perspective of, you would have liked to see your starter give you more than 4 1/3 in a 6-2 game. For a 6-2 game, he should be able to at least give you a 6, where he's just throwing the ball over the plate, throwing strikes, getting light, weak contact, and walking away with the win. But he couldn't do that. So you had to hand it over to the bullpen, and the bullpen was pretty bad. Really, honestly, outside of, Victor Gonzalez, I thought was solid for the inning and a third that he came in. He did his job. But even then, he worked, he had a walk. He had some command issues. He threw 9 balls and 9 strikes in his 18 pitches. So not necessarily the ratio that you want. Really the best out of all of them was probably Clay Holmes. And even he had walked the guy, or even he let up a hit rather. But he had to come in for Ian Hamilton. Ian Hamilton, this was a rare poor outing from him. 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, and he had a walk. Overall, the bullpen in this game allowed 6 of the team's 8 runs. So it was poor. And unfortunately, it came on the day of the Jonathan Loaizaga news where, he obviously is out for the season with a UCL injury, which is awful for him because when he's healthy, is such a core piece to this bullpen. He's one of the best guys in this bullpen when he's healthy. Unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So with that news coming out, plus the struggles from Luke Weaver and Ian Hamilton and those guys, the rare struggles from Ian Hamilton, this game got close. There was winning run was on base. Clay Holmes had to come in and pick up his 4th save of the season, which was a little frustrating, right? This was a win and you were happy about it. But at the same time, inside, you were like, this game should have been 9-2. we should not have used Ian Hamilton. Clay Holmes should not have had to been used. None of these guys should have been used. They shouldn't have, but they were. It's almost like the Yankees kind of lost a little bit of focus. They didn't keep their foot on the gas, and that's what happens. But they got the win, 9-8. It would have been a disaster if they lost this game. They lost that game like 10-9. The way you view, maybe this is crazy, but the way you view the start of the season, it wouldn't have changed, but it just would have really been a major dent into the good vibes that is surrounding this team. So good thing they came away with the victory. You go to yesterday, and again, it was Stanton starting things off. Third inning, got runners on base, guys in front of him worked some good ABs. Rizzo walk, which scored a run. Oswaldo, Judge, Soto all on base. And here comes Giancarlo Stanton. This ball was killed. Absolutely killed. 417 feet to left field. One of the hardest hit baseballs I think most people have seen. I mean, legitimately, we've seen Stanton hit a lot of hard hit baseballs. We've seen this Yankee team hit a lot of hard hits. There might not be any of them harder than that. The sound off the bat was crazy. And credit to Giancarlo Stanton. We went into this series questioning his hitting, was struggling obviously in the first two series, and goes out there and puts together a very, very good series. He came into this series hitting 150. 150 he came into this series with a 540 OPS. He walks out of it with a 4-hit series, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs in 2 games, comes out of the series with a 219 batting average and a 774 OPS. Now, some of that has to do with it's early in the season. He's played 8 games. Your batting average and your OPS is going to fluctuate crazy. That's just the way it is because you don't have many at-bats, but credit to Stanton. A lot of criticism coming at him, rightfully so, for his start. But if it wasn't for Giancarlo Stanton, do the Yankees even win one game in this series? That's how crazy of an impact he had. That's how big of an impact he had. That's how big the middle of the order was this series. Judge also had a hit in this game. Rizzo, although he didn't have a hit, he worked the walk to score the run before the Stanton homer. That was with 2 outs. If Rizzo doesn't work that walk, Stanton doesn't get an opportunity. So it's just the little things like that. And that was a 3-2 count as well on Rizzo, where it was actually 1-2. He then saw a ball. He fouled 2 pitches off. One was a fastball. The other one was an off-speed. I believe it was a curveball. And then 2 balls after that gets him on base. 8-pitch at-bat. You don't get that 8-pitch at-bat from Rizzo, and he strikes out. You don't even get Stanton up there. So the little things like that with this team that you're seeing out of this team that you're not seeing last year. And things that'll go under the radar because most people don't always catch those little things. Most people just focus on the big grand slam, but credit to Rizzo for getting on base, getting a run in. Credit to the other guys for getting on. And then Stanton with the big bomb. And that's what he's paid to do. First grand slam since that Pittsburgh Pirates game 2 years ago in September, which was 2022 season. And on that night, Judge also hit his 60th home run. That was the game the Yankees came back to beat the Pirates. They were down, I believe, 4 or 5 or what was it, 5 down or whatever it was in the 4 down, I guess, whatever in the 9th. I'd have to go back and look, but came back, beat the Pirates, Stanton with a walk-off grand slam, Judge with his 60th home run. Yankees ended up winning that game. So Stanton went all of last season without a grand slam, and then this one was a big one and a 5-run third inning. You go through the rest of this game. Volpe was excellent. He scored on a wild pitch. Oswaldo also singled to left in the 8th. Soto hit a sac fly in the 8th. So just some bonus runs there towards the end to keep things wide open there. 8-3. Luis Gil was excellent again. Angel Hernandez stinks. There was some really bad calls. Gil ran into some trouble in that. I believe it was the 3rd inning, ran into some trouble prior to walked the runner in, prior to Stanton coming up and hitting grand slam in the bottom of the 3rd, ran into some trouble, showed Angel Hernandez up a little bit. Angel Hernandez had the terrible call of Francis stepped off the mound. Bowden Francis, who was the Blue Jays pitcher in this game, threw 3 innings, 5 earned, took the loss. He goes to 0-2. Stepped off the mound and stepped back on the rubber, threw the pitch, and he called it a strike to strike Gleyber Torres out. I don't know how Angel Hernandez is see that. He's terrible. I don't know how he's still in the league. Hell, he still has a job. Supposedly, they say he's well liked among the umps and among the league, but from a fan perspective, from the outside, I don't think anybody likes him. And he was awful again yesterday. So you saw some of the stuff with Luis Gil. That was really the only trouble he ran into. Luis Gil didn't even get out of the 5th inning, and he threw 8 strikeouts. So credit to Gil. He was excellent. 2 earned, 4 walks. The walks are up there, but the 8 strikeouts were impressive. Stuff looked good. I'm not blaming it on the umps, but if it wasn't for Angel Hernandez, there's probably a good chance Gil probably goes at least 5, definitely. He definitely gets through the 5th, maybe 6th. He was cruising, and it hit the bump there in the 3rd inning where he threw, I think it was, 6 balls in a row or 7 balls in a row. So he certainly lost a little bit of his command there, but worked out of it. Jake Cousins came in, allowed 1 run that wasn't earned. Nick Birdie was able to bounce back 2/3 of an inning. Caleb Ferguson was able to bounce back, and then Dennis Santana came in, got the 2 strikeouts. 1 2/3 innings, 14 pitches, 10 strikes, looked really good. So he worked in and out pretty easily there. And the Yankees were able to get the win 8-3. Got to give a ton of credit, too, to Anthony Volpe in this game. He went 3 for 4. He had 2 stolen bases. Volpe's been phenomenal this year. It's only 10 games in, but this has got to be one of your leading candidates for the All-Star team right now. He's currently ranked 2nd in the MLB in batting average. He's hitting .424. He's got a 1.093 OPS. He's been awesome, and what he can do on the bases is special. Leads the team in OPS, leads the Yankees in slugging, leads the Yankees in on-base percentage, leads the Yankees in batting average. He really has been. He also has the most hits on the Yankees. Volpe has been the best Yankee so far this season. He has. Defensively, on the base paths, and of course, at the plate where you're seeing so many, you're seeing so many adjustments, and all the adjustments that he had in the offseason, you're seeing them pay off here in a really, really big way. He's been awesome. The year 2 jump is, I think, greater than anybody could have ever imagined. 9 games for him into the season. So Volpe's been excellent. That's been good to see. Another guy, too, Gleyber, despite the batting average being down. Gleyber right now hasn't necessarily had the success of the plate. 250 batting average, 640 OPS. The power isn't quite there. Has yet to hit one out. He does have the 2 extra base hits with the doubles. He has struck out 10 times, which I believe is the 3rd most on the team, although if you want to say the strikeouts yesterday were Angel Hernandez induced, then that's fine. But Gleyber hasn't had the best success, I'd say, this season. But you have to give him credit. He's been on base in 10 games this season. All 10 games. The Yankees have played 10. Gleyber's been on for 10. He also had 2 hits yesterday. So while Gleyber is hitting-wise a little bit off to a slow start, he is still a guy that's getting on base. And he's still a guy that's working counts, working some walks. I think Gleyber's actually been pretty productive so far. 340 on base. The hits will come. The power will come. But you can't take away from him. Even though he's not your ideal leadoff hitter, he's been able to get on in 10 games. All 10 games this season. That's what you want out of your leadoff, is to get on base. And he's been able to do that. So some credit there to Gleyber as well. And, of course, Soto, who it seemed like there was that little bit of the stretch where he had like that 4-game stretch from the 4 games from the 3 Arizona series and then the first game of the Toronto series where he had 1 hit in 4 games. And then the last 2 games, he's really kind of found his groove again. 3 for 6 over the last 2 games, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, 3 walks as well. So after a 4-game stretch of only having 1 hit, he's bounced back with 3 hits over the last 2 games. Again, another big reason why this Yankee team is 8-2 and why they were able to bounce back and win Saturday and Sunday, take 2 of 3. So the Yankees have had a lot of great wins this year. Their only losses, they've been ugly. They've been 2 shutouts. Their 2 losses, they've been combined 10-0. So when the Yankees lose, it's not pretty. It's pretty ugly, but when they win, it's usually pretty. And that's what happened this season or this weekend. 17 runs over the course of Saturday and Sunday. So Yankees 8-2. They will now face Miami second half of this 6-game homestand. Tonight will be the first game. It'll be Nestor Cortez versus Jesus Luzardo. Nestor Cortez the bullpen, a lot of guys that threw this weekend, a lot of arms that could be up tonight that won't be available. Nestor has not given the Yankees, I'll say this, Nestor hasn't given the Yankees much in terms of he's allowed 7 runs in 2 games. He's got a 6.30 ERA. He's given them 5 innings. The biggest thing with Nestor is if he can get out of the first inning, you feel good about him. I would love to see at least 6 innings tonight from Nestor. Like I said, you give him credit for the first inning struggles. He's been able to bounce back from them and at least give them a little bit of length. But you can't let up 4 runs, 3 runs in the first inning every single game. You just can't do it. You saw what happened the last game, right? Got hit hard in the first inning. Yankees fell down. There was no looking back. They lost 7-0. You're facing the 1-9 Marlins. You're facing, record-wise, the worst team in baseball right now. Throw strikes, nothing fancy, get the job done. Give this team length, give the bullpen a rest. There's really no reason these 3 games should be close. Rodon on Tuesday, he will face AJ Puke, who has a 9 ERA, by the way. And then Marcus Stroman on Wednesday, he'll get his second start in pinstripes. He will face Ryan Weathers. So those are your pitching matchups this week. I'm actually kind of glad that the Marlins won yesterday and they had a big win, 10-3, crushed the Cardinals, because you're not getting an as desperate Marlins team. Look, they're very desperate. But if the Marlins came into the series 0-10, they would be staring down like, man, we got swept. We're facing a good Yankee team. They would panic. They would get desperate. Sometimes when you get desperate, the more desperate team wins. Marlins would be more desperate. Even though it's 10 games in, if you start 0-10 and that continues the landslide, all of a sudden you're 0-13, you can basically kiss the season goodbye. But they got the win, so they are still desperate. But look, it's the Marlins. They're one of the worst teams in baseball right now. The Yankees are 8-2. Don't overthink it. Don't be too pretty. Just get the job done. Don't overthink it. Take 2 or 3 at least. Win the series. That should be the bare minimum. Sweep, definitely in the conversation without a doubt. So that'll do it for another Yankees series recap video. As always, like and subscribe. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Yankees 3 series so far? 10 games in, 8-2, and 3 series win, 1 sweep coming in Houston. So that'll do it for another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast Yankee recap show. We'll be back after the Yankees-Marlins series concludes Wednesday night. Probably have an episode up on Thursday, as it'll be an off day for the Yankees, so stay tuned for that. And as always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.